All right, so since we are live, let's go on here and make sure that it is working.
Let's make us sure. Let's
Make
make us sure.
yes, it is working. Okay, yep. It says that we are live on the Facebook. The Facebook is what? Okay,
Like the old folks will say.
Right. Right.
look, my daughter be like, "Why you call it the Facebook?" I said, "I don't
Because
know."
everything got a "the" in front of it.
Yeah. Either a thumb or
Everything.
an S on the end.
Yes. Yes. The Kroger's. Like if you go to Kroger's, where you going? I'm about to go over there to the Kroger. Nobody knows why it's the.
All right, which account? All right, so we can get started. Yep, and we are live on the YouTube too.
On the
We on the
YouTube.
YouTube, the Facebook, and my my Instagram
All right.
story. It should be coming up shortly here. So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Fawn Walker Montgomery, and I am author of my debut book, Healing in the Fight: A Black Woman's Journey with Endometriosis and Radical Self Care. And we are here today to do an author talk about the book. So I'm just going to start by introducing myself, and then let Alexis and Shana introduce themselves and talk about their work as well. So like I said, my name is Fawn. I am a longtime community organizer. Been in the movement for Black liberation for over 25 years. I'm a CEO of Take Action Advocacy Group, which is a Black liberation organization. Also, the CEO of Fawn Walker Montgomery Consulting. I decided to write the book because when I was going through my healing journey, I was looking for stories that resonated with me. And I went to YouTube and like typed in my symptoms, and all of these stories came up. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm not alone. Maybe this could be what it is. And but I didn't see a lot of those stories from Black women. So I wanted to write a book for other people to see. I'm not alone. These are things that other people are going through. It was a really dark time when I was really at my lowest point, and I was often very depressed and suicidal because I felt like no one was listening to me, from the doctors to the community, because endo is an invisible disease. So you can't, I may not look sick to the normal person, but just the constant chronic pain, it just became a lot. So I wanted to, yeah, share my story and share how I was able to be on this healing journey with others, to help other people heal from it. I believe that the book speaks to so many people, people with chronic illness in general, people with endometriosis, Black women, community organizers, people who do African spirituality, people who want to unlearn white supremacy. There's so many facets that I feel like the book speaks to. So I want to thank Alexis and Shana for taking the time out to join me today, and I'm going to let them speak about themselves. I'm going to brag a little bit about Shana before Shana introduces herself. So Shana was very instrumental in my healing journey. Shana is a sound healer, and the ancestors kind of brought us together, and she's just been very instrumental in really teaching me what rest really means, and also um, sitting down in stillness and being able to learn from that. So thank you so much for that, Shana.
You're
And
welcome.
introduce yourself to the people.
My name is Shana Nunnelly. My business name is Rest Rituals, and it's because I hold space for folks to ritually rest. Alexis, pre-game, we were talking about the NAP ministry, and I'm her sound healer. And we've been working together before things became New York Times bestseller. holding space for rest for her and her family and friends, and also for the events and things that she held, so that we could do the practical work, right? The everyday work of literally just lying down, resting as a collective, as a way of ancestral remembrance. And in that, you remembrance, especially with the sounds and the frequencies of sound bowls, or sometimes would be accompanied with a harp with a wonderful sound healer, Angelica Hairston. Um, you would actually be able to, and a lot of times her installations would be in churches, right? Because that's where we were our first connection community. That's where we first heard sound in a way that was healing. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where our ancestors really poured a lot of what they were holding out every single week, right? And so we would rest in churches to have that ancestral connection. And as we journeyed, um, with everyone who works in rest spaces and stillness spaces, they're finding these inner mystical connections as well that begin to lead them to heal themselves naturally. Whether that be with sound, whether that be with herbs, whether that be with foods, whether that be um, uh, shifting their subconscious traumas and awarenesses and all of those kind of things. And what is normally found is a lot of places that we are holding pain have an ancestral pain connected to it as well. And so that helps me to lead folks on a journey of breaking a lot of generational uh, patterns of thought, doing, being, um, that frees them, that leads them towards an inner and an outer freedom. That's just what I do, you know. um, but it's been amazing because anybody who holds space or sits finds this place of magic inside themselves. You know what I mean? That I just think is just amazing, and it all comes from rest, like intentional rest space. And so that's what I do.
All right. Well, I'm very excited to be on this panel with both of you. My name is Alexis Brooks, owner of Alexis Brooks Nutrition. So my background is as a registered dietitian, and a lot of my background is in working in more traditional healthcare in hospitals and doing outpatient work. But 2020, I got really sick, and in 2021, I found out it was endometriosis. So um, after getting that diagnosis, it really shifted my mind. I knew I always wanted a private practice since I was 15. I just trying to figure out the when and the how and the timing and everything. But after getting that diagnosis and doing so much research on endometriosis and stumbling upon other conditions that are women's related to women's health, and seeing the disparity with women's health and all the other things that go along with that, I decided I wanted to build my practice specifically for women. And it's really centered in women with endometriosis, because of course that's where my heart is. That's my lived experience too. So a lot of the people that I do see in my practice do have endometriosis. I also see there's maybe we'll get into it during our talk today too, but endometriosis has a lot of co-conditions. And so I also see a lot of PCOS. I see fibroids a lot. And the lens that I like to work through is really a holistic and integrative lens. So I'm looking at full body. We're talking a lot about stress management. We're talking about movement. We're talking about joy. And of course, we're talking about food and nourishment too, but really the umbrella of nourishment as a whole, of what it means to nourish our bodies in more ways than just food. And the key things that I work with specifically with endometriosis is I help to reduce pain, help to improve digestion, because a lot of us tend to have digestive issues too, and increase energy. So those are like the three big things that I work with my clients to achieve.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all so much for joining us and for kind of explaining to folks, yeah, what you all do. So I'm going to read some sections from my book and kind of talk you through that, and then we'll have some discussions around those. So this author talk is going to kind of be focused on hoodoo and kind of looking at our relationships with food. So this is Hoodoo Heritage Month of October. So I wanted to do something to make sure that we were honoring that and making space for that. So I'm going to read a couple sentences here and then kind of go through that. So this is on page 87 of my book. Here's the cover of my book. Take my sticky note off. Bam, here you go. I always make sure I put that. Bam. All right, so here we go. Um, so the title of the chapter is Embracing the Journey to My Higher Self. Throughout the book, I have mentioned the need to unlearn white supremacy as well as the significance of spirit and ancestors. After the surgery, all of these elements came to a head, and I began to see how they were interconnected. For example, I had to unlearn how my relationship with white supremacy had affected my views of myself, my understanding of rest. Even though I had a self care coach explain to me the idea of true rest went beyond spa trips, this is the first time it actually resonated with me. A few months after the surgery, I had the opportunity to put this into practice by doing a rest retreat with the Wind Call Institute. So, the Wind Call Institute is really a place for tired activists. That's what I call it. The organization guides a long time organizers and transformative practices. So I was chosen to go on a 3 week sabbatical to New Mexico and stay on a ranch for 3 weeks with no work, no plans, just kind of sitting on a ranch. So this was the first time I would not be working for such a long period of time. I knew that if I had done the work to unlearn, I would never have done something like this because I would be like, no, I got to work. So it was truly transformative for me. I had the pleasure of connecting with other movement organizers. I went on my first hike. I learned how to do a fire and tried different foods. In the past, I thought these activities were white people things. Before the end of the trip, I was going on hikes alone and even did a solo hike at Bandelier National Monument. So, yay. um, During the retreat, one of my close comrades in the movement, Celeste Scott, passed away. My heart was broken for her family and community. When I say family, I mean the chosen and unchosen ones, and I have become a part of the chosen family. She's a fierce advocate who is constantly missed. I almost left the retreat, but stayed after friends reminded me that she would want me to stay. I still felt all the things. I felt bad. I had survivor's guilt. So many Black women have died fighting for our people. I thought, what made me any different? While also feeling relieved that I was finally resting. I was also sad and often thought about her son. This was during the time that the new Black Panther was released after Chadwick passed and went on to become an ancestor. I went to see the movie, at the retreat with my comrades and cried for a few hours after I had appreciated them for letting me have that moment. So it is in the book. I talk a lot about unlearning white supremacy because I had to do that first before I became open to hoodoo or African spirituality or really anything. Because I had this relationship and concept of rest that meant I didn't deserve it, and I always had to be fighting or just doing, something for this movement. And I was the person who was in the streets, literally physically in the streets, putting my body on the life on the line, and I was inside like dying. I was in a lot of pain, and I used that to think I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to go and I'm going to fight, and we have to work all the time. So I literally had to unlearn, and the body keeps scoring. The body set me down. So when it set me down, I was like, okay, I need to really reevaluate my relationship with rest. I noticed that the phone wasn't ringing anymore, and a lot of my relationships were built off of my labor and what I was doing for folks, but not really connecting with who I am. So just unlearning that, and it's a lifelong journey. It's not nothing that you do overnight because white supremacy is embedded into us. It's embedded into our overall systems, like who we are. because they teach us that. So we have to do the work. And now, like I said, it's a lifelong thing to unlearn our relationship with it and how it shows up. So I wanted to start with that because that is the very first piece to being open to anything was unlearning the relationship with white supremacy. So, yeah. I don't know if that brought up anything for you all or if you could relate to any of that.
For me, yeah, it did actually. So I I reflected a lot about this during the pandemic. So probably like in 2020, I was thinking a lot about this, and I was thinking about white supremacy specific to food, like how we nourish ourselves, and even thinking about my curriculum in school. I went to a PWI, so primarily white institution, and I thought about like my classes that I would teach, like what the overall sense was, and I was thinking about like what are some foods that we would recommend. And
Mhm.
when I really thought about it, it's like foods that would be like white, like not considered ethnic or from like cultural foods. And there was one course, we did have a course I don't know, something like cultural nutrition, something like that, where we did learn about different cultures. But when you think about it's like a 5-year degree, and within that degree, all those years, it was really just like that one course that we really talked about it. And from my recollection, it was nothing about African cuisine. It was other cuisines, but
Mhm.
ours wasn't really talked about. And I just started like reflecting on like how has that impacted my sessions with clients, with patients, people who, yeah, just in general, like I'm sure it had to have affected me in some way. So I did a lot of reflecting around that, and I realized that though I did try to like do the work outside of the classroom of like making sure I was incorporating different cuisines and all those sorts of things, my recommendations, I think it was still skewed, like, because that would be my default
Mhm.
of like certain adjustments that I may recommend to someone instead of recommending something that was more cultural. And it didn't have to necessarily be within that person's culture, but like just having like a wider array of recommendations. So that's when you were talking about that, that specifically came up for me. And since then, I've been more conscious about that, of like making sure I'm always including like a variety of foods from around the world, really, in all my recommendations. Because even if like for me, I'm black, it doesn't mean that I'm eating soul food every day. That's not what's happening here. Like I still enjoy a wide variety of foods from all over the world. So I make sure that that is a part of it, no matter who I'm talking to.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so important to unlearn those things so we can be open to that. And most times we don't even realize it, and we're just going with the day to day and doing what what we've been told, and we have digested the principles of white supremacy so much, but we don't really realize it a lot. A lot of that is where that internal racism comes from, and it shows up, in violence. But these
Yeah.
are just conversations that we're just not having in that sense. So yeah, that definitely um, that definitely resonates with the food. And because I ate like my mom said I ate like I was in college, so I was like 30. She's like, I don't know why you eat like that, pizza and chicken, and like, oh my god. But I was like working, 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 constantly. Did you want to say something, Shana?
Yeah, I wanted to say the same, like that. I learned about food at in college through going to an HBCU and taking two things, Africana studies classes, which eventually like became a major for me, and um, meditation, basically. You know what I mean? And then like when someone is teaching you like white bread is there because it's a color scheme thing based on like you know what I mean, like this whole long thing, and then you now we're in the place where we're like there's gluten in this bread, there's blah blah blah. You know, even the collective is like waking up to be like, this doesn't make any sense to bleach something and take all of the stuff out of it. You know what I mean? Just so that you can think that you're having some pure white bread. Like what?
Yeah.
You're like intentionally killing people? you know. So I think that's a huge thing, because when I first was like, I'm eating healthy, the first thing
Mhm.
that my family would say was like, oh, are you a Muslim? You know what I mean? And I was like, no, I just don't want to die.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not even that. Like, you know what I mean? This is just what I wanted to do. And I wanted to change my diet because my grandfather, who's my hero, had open heart surgery.
Mm.
So same thing, like the body is keeping the score. And I was like, well, how did he, like, why, what happened? He exercised. He was a great provider. He's a very peaceful person. Like, what's going on? And it was what he was eating. And I was like, oh, this is a thing. Like, one thing leads to it, you know what I mean? Another thing. And so a lot of, again, the white supremacy and what you have been taught to eat, you know what I mean, can then be like your downfall. Again, going back to intergenerational trauma. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, this is what you have, and you're supposed to work hard, and you're supposed to eat slop. Damn,
Mhm.
got them. You know what I mean? We in 2025 picking up Mountain Dews, wondering why the hell, you know?
It's so true. Mountain Dew is my thing too.
It's delicious.
So the next page I'm going to read is in that same chapter is about when hoodoo came into my life. So this was a time after the hysterectomy, and in the book I talk about having a hysterectomy and making that decision to have it, which was a quality of life thing for me because I didn't have a quality of life at that time, and I knew I had to have it so so I would survive. But I was pissed off about it because I had this unlearning piece, and I was saying to myself, I've been fighting racism since I was 11 years old, and stole that part of my life, and then stole my ability to have a child with the love of my life. So I was very upset, at the time. So after the surgery, um, it was a rough surgery, and I almost passed. The abscess like exploded in my stomach, and if I didn't have it, I wouldn't be here. And that was literally the ancestors pushing me to keep fighting and to keep researching and to keep asking questions. So, but I still felt like something was still happening, and I didn't have the language to it. So during this time, the pain had decreased significantly, but it was still present because there's no cure for endo. I had completely stopped taking Tylenol and other over the counter medications. Instead, I utilized breath work, movement, baths, heat, and CBD to manage the pain. One day, while sitting on the couch, I received a download. The reason I was now using these methods was that I had magic inside of me and the power to heal myself. I also realized that our ancestors used these practices during slavery. This prompted me to begin researching what this meant. I felt confused because I kept hearing the question, "Are you a witch?" And I was like, I don't know what that means. So after doing some reading, I discovered the ancestors were trying to tell me about hoodoo. So hoodoo is an African derived practice that deals with everyday concerns using herbs. In addition, it uses the natural elements of water, air, fire, and earth, earthly magic. It's a result of the people who face unimaginable suffering but refuse to give up. Hoodoo offers the ability to act on racial justice, which at times can be challenging to address due to lived trauma. After our ancestors were kidnapped, they wanted to hold on to some form of their practices. Therefore, they practiced this but hid it in plain sight. It was hidden in the rituals, prayers, food, water, air, and sacred objects. They utilized these things to seek protection, healing, and justice. These practices were preserved through oral tradition passed down within families and communities. They also incorporated elements of Christianity, the preferred religion that slaves were forced to practice. This integration is evident in aspects such as renaming spirit possessions, such as catching the Holy Spirit and replacing African incarnations with Bible verses. One major part of hoodoo is having a deep connection with your ancestors. This is another thing I received over the years. I remember always feeling connected to my maternal grandmother and movement ancestors, feeling like they were always with me and would take over when I needed to fight for justice. So for me, it was fitting that I recognized that this is the message I was trying to hear. During the surgery, when I almost died, a symbolic portal opened and I walked through it. I believe I ignored these signs in the past because I was busy fighting white supremacy. So that is how hoodoo kind of came to me. And a lot of the messages and the downloads that I heard from the ancestors were breathe. And I was like, I breathe all the time. They're like, no, you need to deeply breathe, which is where that breath work came in. And one of the tests for endo, there's not a lot, but there's one that you can do. And they put you in this MRI thing for an hour and they kind of wrap you up in what I feel like is like aluminum foil, because that's what I feel like I was in. But you have to breathe in there for an hour. You just have to do breath work. And before this, I would have never stayed in that thing for an hour, just breathing. But I was just in there meditating because I had listened when they said breathe and rest and move your body. And my pelvic floor therapist told me that breathing and yoga and movement is the number one treatment for like the stage of endo, that I'm in now. So, receiving that download literally saved my life, and that's actually how I got connected with Shana, because it was somebody at Wind Call that I met that I reached out, and I was like, man, something trying to tell me something was like spirits, and you was talking a lot about that. So I reached out, and I was like, what's that mean? So that's how I got connected with Hoodoo. Yeah. So I want to give Shana an opportunity to talk about Hoodoo, and because Shana did a lot of sound healing with me, and the vibrations, like I felt them. And now this was virtual. We did some in person, but initially it was virtual, and I felt, I could feel things being healed when we were doing the sound baths.
So I shouldn't say I am a practicing voodoo priestess. So a
Okay.
voodoo priestess is a person who is a natural healer through the tradition of their ancestors. Voodoo just means spirit. Hoodoo is a little bit different. Hoodoo is folk and it can be picked up anywhere. It's not something that is a specialty. It's something that all of our grandmothers, like for example, my grandmother who didn't practice anything, taught us about a hottie toddy. When you get a cold and you get a sore throat, you get this hottie toddy, and you just get tea and you get honey and you get, that's hoodoo, right? That's um, a way that we connect to all of our folk and ancestral magic. And so one of the tools that I was given to help people heal was sound bowls, because you can literally feel it.
Mhm.
And when you get into that, basically it aligns your nervous system, right? So it gets you to a place of rest and a place of peace.
Mhm.
And when you get to that place of rest and that place of peace, um, you get guidance, because you're not worried. Your body is like, I'm safe. It's okay, and so you can hear the truth in a way that you haven't before. And places in your body that are not aligned, the frequencies begin to kind of speak to them in a sense, right? Like when you're just like,
Mhm.
turn that TV off, that's getting on my nerves, right? Everybody heard that. So it's the same with sound. It's like it's getting into your nerves, it's getting into your nervous system. And so it calms the places that have friction or have tension or are upset. So in endo, the parts of your body that are in pain begin to kind of speak to you and let you know what you need, what it needs. And so you can start to hear, oh, I need this herb, or I need, in this case, it was CBD, right? And then having to go through like, oh my God, like I gotta go get some CBD. Like, oh my goodness, what is this? But that's the gift. You know what I mean? That's the gift of sound. That's the gift of ancestral magic. That's what's in literally every single one of us. If we don't mask it with work, right? When we don't mask it with work, worry, and unworthiness,
Yes.
um, then this other thing emerges. And so um, that's the reason that I do what I do, and that's why uh, Fawn has gone through the, how do you say, gone through the journey in her particular way, right? Everybody is not going to go, oh, I'm a healer and I'm now work with Hoodoo, right? It may be something completely different. It may, other folks, like we were talking to Alexis, may have fibroids, and then they get in front of the sound. They don't know why they're coming to me. They just know they're tired. They just know, that kind of thing. And so they come and then they lay with the bowls. That vibration goes out and they say, Shana, I felt when you played a certain bowl, I felt that in my womb space. And then we start to have a conversation with the fibroid. What is it that you want? What do you need? What do we need to let go of so that this can be cleared up, so that you can get to the maternity that you want to have a child, or you just want to have a healthy cycle. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't even get there. I just want to have a healthy, balanced cycle. So, and a lot of times the Black women have fibroids because of the stress. And so then we get to really dissect that space of unworthiness that has you so stressed out, but you still are wanting to create something, right? Like, you're wanting to work hard. You want to accomplish the thing that you're wanting to accomplish. But it's being, your body is saying, wait, we got to do this a different way. So that's how it all, came together. So for Fawn, it came down the pipe in terms of this type of work that you need to do. You're still going to be a revolutionary, but because the planet and everything has dramatically shifted, where we used to be out in the front lines of civil rights, now we're in a place where rest is being able to lead us into our greatest, and our highest, because things are shifted. We're not supposed to sacrifice ourselves like this anymore. That's not our call to freedom, is to make ourselves the sacrificial lambs. So I don't know if I went on a tangent, I feel like.
No,
So yeah, that's how it all blended together.
Add anything, Alexis?
Yeah, I'm just the more both of you are talking about Hoodoo, the more I recognize that I may have been practicing it in ways that I didn't realize.
That's what normally happens. And it's like, you don't put the word on it, you don't put the name on it. And a lot of times it's only because we're like, it's a scary thing to say based on the, movies, and, just it's scary to say that out loud. But yeah, we're practicing it. Go ahead, say what you're going to say.
Well, I was thinking as you both were mentioning the common theme of like rest and listening and stopping. And so 2020 is when I knew something was wrong for a long time. Like, since I started my period at 11, and I always had an issue with my period. And it wasn't until I was 30 until I was like, no, like, let's revisit this again, and like, let's really fully advocate and like dig into this deeper. But it was also 2020, and everybody had to sit down and be quiet and like figure out what was going on around them and inside them. So that was definitely a time where I like really turned inward, and rest was there, but not really. I thought I was resting. I'll put it that way. I thought I was resting at that time. I knew I was supposed to rest, and I thought I was resting. But what was really happening is I filled my time with other things that I didn't necessarily think of as working, because it wasn't work per se. It wasn't like on the job working, but I was still filling my time with so many other things that I still wasn't truly resting. And even during that time, I was still getting enough sleep, may have slept enough time like during the night, but I wasn't really making that connection until a bit later that, no, you actually don't rest. You actually like feel like you have to fill every bit of time that you have. You feel like you have to always be productive. And even when I had my surgery, I was out of work for 2 weeks, and I was reflecting on this. I was planning of what I was going to do during those 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, I was supposed to be recovering from surgery. I was like, oh, I'm going to get this done and that done. And I still thought it was rest, because I'm like, well, I'm not going to be standing up. Like, I'm going to be on my computer. Like, I'm not going to be going into work. I'm still going to be in the bed. So I just perceived it to be rest. But in reality, that wasn't rest at all. And I remember, so I went to my parents' house, and they like helped me rehabilitate during the recovery. And then they dropped me back off at my place after like a week, and they're like, yeah, we don't think you rested enough. And I was thinking, what? I was like sitting down all the time. Like I was resting. But that was something that really came to me, realizing at that point, like, you know what? I don't rest. And that was a piece that I have worked on since, like over the past few years, on resting and also setting boundaries to where I can allow myself to rest. And actually, even through therapy too, my therapist has helped me with this of like, you know, she's like, what if one day you just woke up and was in bed all day? I was like, what? Like all day? And she's like, what if you just didn't do any work one day? Like, what if you just took the day off from work and actually didn't do anything? And I was like, what? Like, it took me aback. I was like, how is that? I can't even conceive the thought of that. Like, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
I have to interrupt you. I definitely same. Like I think it was 2021 or something like that. I'm already doing sound healings for people. I'm always doing privates. And then I really like same thing. I'm talking to my son. He's like, "Mom, why don't you just lay down and like don't do nothing and just stay in the bed all day?" Honey almost cussed him out. And I am the teacher. I am a teacher of rest. I am teaching sound baths. I am almost cussed him. I was like, "Is that so? You saying that's possible?" And he's like, "I mean, it seems like you should do that." And I was just like, oh man, that's wild. Like, you know what I mean? But then it made me do it because I thought about like, what do you call it? Is it a bigot or whatever? What am I? Like, why am I saying one thing? Yeah. Like, and not doing another thing. Like, lay there and see what happens. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I totally and I felt like those of us who still today, if those of us who get COVID, it's a flu, whatever, I've always feel like it's a time of deep rest and reflection. You know, you can't do shit for 3 days, but breathe.
Yeah.
And like, there's nothing that you're going to be able to do. You just have to breathe. We're all in a better place with it now. You know what I'm saying? You know, no one's passing and all those kind of things. So it is a very eye-opening when someone says, and then you're ready, you know, to go somewhere and lay down. I'll also say that in sound healing, my mentor was a white woman, and we used to come together and do events and stuff like that. And one day we were all sitting together. We were planning a New Year's Eve event. We were going to have this big sound healing event with like 4 different sound healers, and everybody, we were going to have a whole ceremony for them to usher in their intentions for the new year. And so as we were talking, it's me, her, and there was 2 brothers there, Black men. And she was telling a story about how her having her own business and sound healing and stuff like that, how everybody would be like, oh, you need to rest and you need to do this and you need to just chill out and blah, blah, blah. And I told her, I said, as a Black woman, nobody has ever told me that I shouldn't work and that I should rest. And then I looked at the brothers, I said, what have you seen? And they were like, yeah, no, I never experienced that either too. And then they said, you know, yeah. And then she turns to me and she says, well, make that part of your platform. And in that moment, I just wanted her to understand, like, baby, of course it's going to be a part of my platform. A, what you think I'm out here doing. And B, do you realize what I'm saying to you? Like you get to, someone is implying to you that you should rest, that you're not a workhorse, that you're not only supposed to, you're unworthy of doing anything else besides sitting out here hustling and making money and grinding. That's just a part of your culture. She's a single woman, no kids, no nothing. And they're like, you should lay down, child, please. Honey, the internet is telling me I better be a boss bitch and have 5 streams of income and I better get up and do it.
Yeah.
Get that bag.
You better get that bag. Cardi B literally has millions of dollars and she stays on the internet selling herself and her life on TikTok. You see what I'm saying? Like, you ain't no brown woman being told to rest nowhere.
No.
You know, so that's again back to the decolonizing. We have to do it from our own. We have to do it ourselves. Our sons, our daughters, our, you know what I'm saying, our inner selves have to be like, oh, so you feel unworthy of just chilling? You know? So
yeah,
that's why I had to interrupt on that one. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
And we think that watching TV is resting too. And it ain't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. I have
9 times out of 10 is more stressful because we're just like, why is the housewife fighting again?
Overstimulated with yeah.
Why
We
is
take
the world on fire? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just Pinda's in the chat, and Pinda is my scrap coach. Was very instrumental in me writing the books. Hey, Pinda. So I'm just going to read. When Pinda says, "That's good. I thought I was resting. We have to learn how to rest, and we feel guilty when we rest." I can definitely resonate. And I hate to, in the book, that's how I am now. But in the book, I talk about it's actually long COVID before the endo hit. It was long COVID that I got, and that set me down because I couldn't breathe and I couldn't do the marching anymore. I physically could not walk. So that was the first part of the ancestors like, all right, sit down. So it was the long COVID first that came. And then I just physically couldn't march and I couldn't protest because I couldn't breathe. So then from there, that's when, when I was resting, I started to realize some other things were off. So it actually started with me with long COVID. And I'm very proud revolutionary. So I do want to say this because I have a lot of people on my social media who are in the movement. When I say rest, I don't just mean go to sleep. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about resting your mind and your body. I'm talking about sitting in silence, maybe taking 5, 10 minutes out of a day. I'm not telling you not to resist. I am not saying that because I feel like we should be doing both. There's often this struggle with that I feel like anyway, because I'm in a spiritual space and the resistance space. And there's often a struggle for those two to come together. And I need us to go beyond just calling out the ancestors in the beginning of our events. I need us to become connected with the ancestors and to really, really hear from them and let them guide us through this resistance that we are in right now. Because it's not nothing new, nothing we haven't been through before. So I just wanted to get that out there. Like, I don't mean go to sleep. I mean develop a rest practice. I mean say no, stick to your boundaries, and don't fall into the belief that you have to die for this movement. There have been so many Black women that I know personally that have died fighting for Black liberation, and they're dead and no longer here with us. And they got tired, and I don't want that to be our continuation of our story. So I had to say that because I know there's a lot of people that follow me that are in the movement, especially a lot of younger black women. So I had to stress that. In the book, I talk about like I cried in front of my daughter for the first time doing these things
Oh,
because
yeah.
I never do that. Like I don't cry. So through all of these things, I was able to she's seen that, and I've beat myself up. And my husband's like, "Girl, if you don't sit down somewhere, you're in pain, and it's okay for her to see that. Guess what? Like, Fawn, you are human."
As a
Like,
human, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You're a human. I wanted to remind everybody who is in the movement that Harriet Tubman died old and was a spiritual practitioner early on in her life. Part of the reason that she was freed is because she did a verbal incantation, and the owner passed away from her energy work. Let's just say it. um, but she did not sacrifice her life, right? She died, I want to say late like 80s or something like that. She was very, very old. And she transformed her work whenever needed and phoenixed herself in different ways, right? And she wasn't always freeing folks by literally following the North Star and going through the woods. Y'all, like in her own lifetime, she evolved. And I think that that is something that is really important for us to note, that all of our leaders were not sacrificed in their 30s. And a lot of our thriving, you know, there are folks who died old. Asada didn't pass away as soon as she got to Cuba.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She just died what, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, like, so she transformed how she was doing the work that she was doing, and she put freedom first.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'll share.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and before we kind of move on to talk about the food as medicine piece, I just want to add that with Hoodoo, I did ancestral veneration and was able to find out I had an aunt on my mother's paternal side. Um, no, her maternal side. My mother's maternal side, but it's my maternal grandmother's dad. His sister, my aunt Bessie, practiced hoodoo or some form of it. And my aunts would tell me, "Oh, she did that weird stuff on. She did the cards, and she did all this. She hid money in the walls, like she was doing all kind of weird stuff." So I was like, "Oh, okay. So maybe that's where this is coming from." So for me, it was also about like reclaiming. So I feel like me doing this practice is reclaiming it, from my aunt Bessie, who was told she was crazy, and she was absolutely not. So I really felt connected and that was just me doing my veneration and asking questions and like, oh, okay. I had no idea, that that was even happening. So I kind of wanted to add that piece in about that's also about reclaiming some of these practices that have been, stolen from us in yoga and meditation and breath work are not white people things. They come from the ancestors, literally. So it's not had anything to do with white folk or losing weight or any of that shit. It is
Mm-hmm.
literally about healing, and that's what they did. So I want people to really understand that as well. So now I'm on page 122 of the book and talks about food as medicine. So eating to some is a straightforward process. Everyone gets hungry, right? And we need food to survive. Well, for me, and I'm sure others with endometriosis, this is not an effortless process. When my endo got to its worst in 2021, I stopped eating. This was because when I ate, it hurt. This caused me to lose weight. I would get compliments and they say, "Oh, you look great. What you been doing?" I'm like, not eating. um, so I almost died from the horrible condition. So I was like, yeah, there's that. Of course, I didn't say that, but it was true. Even after the hysterectomy, this still occurred. Therefore, I had a weird relationship with food. So when the ancestors told me to eat, I was confused at first, and I was like, no, because it hurts. So after sitting in stillness, I came to see that they were talking about what I was eating. So I had to reevaluate what I was putting into my body, which was in alignment with Hoodoo and African spirituality. In this tradition, detoxes combined with baths, heat, plants, and salt are practices passed down from our ancestors. So I had to reevaluate my relationship with food, and I sought out an elder, Queen Afua, and I went through a wellness detox course with her that involved eating only fruits, vegetables, and juicing for 21 days because it takes 21 days to form a habit. Also, turning my house into a wellness home. So we went over the foods to eat for pain and other conditions, and being in a group of other Black women in healing and being consistent with that. So for the first time, and I kid you not, if you know me, you know that even saying I'm eating salads is wild as hell for me to say. And I remember talking to Shay, he said, "You better ask the ancestors to change your taste buds." All right, I'll try. But it actually did work. So I'm eating salads, fruits, and juicing. In the beginning, it was rough, but I had to ask the Most High and the ancestors to change my taste buds. So this concept of seeing food as medicine has been life changing for me because I'm looking at food differently. I'm also looking at my kitchen differently as well because it's where I go and I cook the foods that um, really, have become healing for me. And endometriosis is also inflammation. So some of the foods that I was eating were causing the inflammation. And I know Alexis, this is centered a lot around the work you do. So I don't know what kind of is coming up for you, but I'm sure some things are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is big. I think a lot of people don't necessarily think too much about food, as you mentioned. That like it's a very straightforward process. We get hungry, we eat, but really the food that we eat, it's information, it is input, and our body will react to it. What we put into our mouth, actually, we become it. So even if we think
Mm-hmm.
literally about our DNA is made from the foods that we eat, um, our gut, our gut microbiome comes from the foods that we're eating. The bacteria that lives within our gut, that comes from the foods that we're eating. So if we're eating things that are nourishing, we're able to positively impact it, our bodies, and uh, our mind, our bodies, everything. But if we are not, we also can do the opposite. We can create more inflammation. We can create more of a hormonal imbalance. And we think about endo and a lot of these hormone dependent diseases, eating in a way that is creating an imbalance of hormones can worsen the condition itself. Um, so a lot of what I teach the women that I work with is to eat. First, I say eat real food. So there's kind of like levels to food, right? Like we may think of food could be Cheetos, right? But food can be a piece of fruit, or it could be a vegetable or meat or something like that. But ultimately, the food that our body really recognizes and is able to take in and impact our health in a positive way would be food that's as close as possible to its natural source, I would say. So we think about the Cheeto example. It is an ultra processed food, so it would create more inflammation. It is a food that there's a lot of things in there, right? Even more than we really know, as opposed to a food that's closer to nature, which will can help to reduce inflammation. It can help to balance our hormones. It can help with our gut health, that sort of thing too. So I think it's really important that we definitely consider nutrition and ultimately eating real food, things that come from nature, things that are close to nature as possible to support our bodies.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you kind of ate? Because I know you have endometriosis as well. So, or is there anything that kind of works for you specifically?
Yeah, definitely. So, um, eating a lot of bumping up on omega 3 is an
Mm-hmm.
important one. So, I always recommend whether it be a capsule form or even better, I think best to have it through food. But that'd be like fatty fish. So, whether it be like sardines or salmon, mackerel, any kind of like those fatty, oily fish, we'll get a lot of omega 3 from that. Having an abundance of food of like fruits and vegetables, I would say a bigger emphasis on vegetables and fruit, but we need both. So trying to get as much as possible. This is the optimal recommendation. This is not where a lot of people start, but I would say getting at least like 5-6 cups of vegetables a day, to be able to get enough of that antioxidant power to support us. And it doesn't have to come in the form of, you mentioned salads. Salads are great, but also we can open our minds to eating vegetables in other forms too. It could be something that you're sauteing and adding into a dish that maybe doesn't normally have vegetable. Like maybe we can just incorporate it that way. We can get it through making sauces that are made from vegetables too. So cooked is also really beneficial too. Um, Spices, adding in turmeric, ginger, cinnamon, garlic, like as many spices and herbs as we can. Those can really help out too with bringing down inflammation. Plus, they're delicious, so it also like it's a nice way to like change up the foods. But they have those therapeutic benefits too. Um, let's see, seeds can be helpful, particularly like pumpkin seeds, flax seeds. Those are great for helping to balance hormones, helping to give us specific micronutrients. So, like with a body that has endo, we need more magnesium, we need more zinc, we need more
Mm-hmm.
omega 3, we need more iron because of the inflammation too. And if you're someone who's bleeding, we need like that's another reason why we need more iron too, to help to replenish those stores of minerals. So those are like some key foods I would say for me personally. At the time, like in I guess 2020, I was pretty much like I was vegetarian. I wasn't definitely not eating meat. I would have seafood every so often, like months would pass by and I wouldn't have it. But I would say fast forward today, I have it all the time. I have it multiple times a week, and um, I noticed that along with I guess a variety of other things, though, it's helped me a lot because it's been able to provide the minerals, the protein, the omega 3 that I mentioned. So like the components that our bodies need, that we could be lacking in other places.
Mm-hmm. And endo is connected, and I know we had talked about that in the pregame. Is connected to a lot of other conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So I did an author talk in Cleveland, and I was explaining that I was on birth control from 12 to 22. And somebody was like, well, that causes high blood pressure. And what do I have now? I have high blood. So I didn't even realize that the two were connected. And I have endo belly too, which is that I just have a lot of digestive issues. And I really had to get into the food because even citrusy fruit causes acid and causes me, because endo spreads. So it can go to your throat, it can go to all these other places. So I had to look at that. So we really have to look at what we're putting in our bodies food wise. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to stress something that I think Shana brought up earlier. These are my experiences, and this is Alexis' experience, and changing. Our relationship with food helped us. So it might not be everybody's story, because there is no cure for endo, but there are things that we can do to manage it and to stop it from growing. And I've connected to the food and what I'm putting in my body, and not just eating, but also stress. And there's that as well. Like, what am I consuming? What am I watching on TV? Like, what am I listening to? All of those things, because it all comes in our body. So endo is connected to so many different like diseases that
Mm-hmm.
doctors really don't, they don't tell you that. And it all kind of comes back to eating and what we're putting in our bodies.
I just thought about something else that you just mentioned with like relationship with food, where it's really common that we end up altering what we're eating because of the pain, or because we people will develop food fear, where there's like a group of foods that we just won't eat anymore because we become like, maybe we try one food from that group and then another food, and we're just like, oh no, let me just like throw that all out altogether. And what can happen over time is we can become malnourished. We may not necessarily look it, but ultimately we're just not getting enough nutrients as a whole. We're not getting the vitamins, the micronutrients, the minerals, the enough protein, enough of the what our body actually needs for fuel, and it makes us sicker. So even if we're doing this as like a safety mechanism, we're trying to
Mhm.
protect ourselves, but we actually end up in a situation where we get sicker because we no longer even have that raw material and that input to heal us and to help us. So that's a lot of the work I do too. Is removing the restriction and moving into a mindset of abundance. And depending on what the situation is, we have to do it gradually, because we do have legitimate issues with the gut where we really can't tolerate everything, but we can do it in a way that's safe and a way that's still helpful. But you're right. There's so much with digestion. Like, we may have an imbalance of good and bad bacteria. We may have low stomach acid. We may not have enough enzymes because we're not even eating enough minerals to produce those enzymes. So it all becomes like this cyclical thing where we have to interrupt it at some point in order to like break that cycle and support you moving forward.
Mhm. Absolutely. It's so important to just kind of reevaluate, that relationship. Because I definitely just stopped eating. I was like, forget it. I'm just not even going to eat anything, because
Hmm.
it just hurt too bad.
So when
And
you say eat anything, what does that mean?
I just didn't eat. I
So
didn't
what, you
eat.
drink water all day? I
I
mean,
drank
like, I'm really trying to figure this
I
out.
drank water.
Coffees, like, how are you, like, because your stomach's gonna growl. So
It
how
was
did
just
you
water.
satiate the growl?
Oh, I knew
You
I
were
was
just
hungry, but I didn't want to do the pain, and I would be like, I just won't eat for 3 days, and then I'll eat the next three because I planned in my pain because I knew it was coming.
okay.
So I just didn't eat. And Ansel was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna need you to eat." And
Yeah,
then
you gotta
that's
find.
when,
Yeah, that's why I was
yeah,
like, define for me what this fast is, because it
yeah,
sounds like a fast. And so, what did you,
Unintentional.
what did you? Yeah,
yeah.
I
It
was
was
trying to
just
figure that out.
water. It was just water, and that's when I had to go. To the ancestors, like something, and then the endo came back, which I knew it was gonna happen, but I was like, yeah, I'm not going through this mess again. So it was like fighting a different way. So I
Mm.
was like, okay, then let me go to the ancestors and say, hey, what do I need to do? Go ahead. Shay.
I wanted to speak on when you saying repeatedly that I need to go to the ancestors. So, as a practitioner, or folks, as
Mhm.
we were talking about, like rest. When Fawn is saying she went to the ancestors, she had set up sacred space where she wanted to open up a line of communication with her family, right? If that doesn't feel comfortable for you, right? Because we're in the spooky season, folks have different
Mhm.
feelings around that. So I just really wanted to speak on that. If that's not your jam, or for what saying something about ancestors, just like you don't even like your granddaddy now. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what's going on. Like I don't. But you're able to practice a rest just by simply again asking your inner self, asking your pain, ask being able to listen to this place that says, oh, how do I describe it? When I teach my intuitive classes, one of the things that I do is I say, think about pizza. Now feel it in your body. When you get hungry, wait, don't do it before you get hungry. Do it while you're not hungry so that your stomach can be able to say to you, that's not really what I need right now.
Mm.
I'd love to have and be able to listen to that part and joyfully lean into it. And that changes your taste buds. Because you're listening to that inner voice first. And
Mhm.
so that's what she's tapping into when she's saying, I'm speaking to the ancestors. She's putting out a prayer, and then being able to just in stillness listening to the answer.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. No, thank you for that. Yes, absolutely. Um, I don't see any questions in the chat outside of a lot of people agreeing with, things that we're saying here today, especially in regards to rest. So if we can just close out with any tips and let people know where they can, also find you all and connect with you all. I guess for me, one big tip is to advocate for yourself. No one is going to advocate for you the way that you should. No one, and I mean no one, especially Black women. They
Mm.
will walk over us as we're bleeding and won't care. So you have to advocate for yourself, um, just as hard as you do for others. For me, I go hard for my folks. I mean hard. So I had to turn that inward and go hard for Fawn too. Because it's like, I'm not going to sacrifice myself. So I advocated like crazy. Every time I go to a doctor's appointment, I have a medical journal for Fawn, and I have what my symptoms are, what I'm experiencing. Have you been talking to this doctor, to that doctor? I bring up a lot of natural methods when I'm talking to my doctor. I make them listen to me. If they're rushing me, I just find another doctor. I just go to somebody else. Um,
Mhm.
we have to ask questions. They made me wait a month to schedule this hysterectomy. I called every day. I just kept calling. I just kept calling. I said, I need to get a date. I need to get a date. So the advocacy piece is really big. Support groups were very helpful. So I found most of them online. I went and I found these support groups on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, and I go there first. And I'm like, hey, have y'all heard of this? Has anybody experienced this? And then us talking to one each other has saved my life because they're like, don't take that, or this help for me, or this, or make sure you're bringing these things up. So I would definitely stress finding a support group for endometriosis or any other chronic illness. I actually started one as well with TAG, with my nonprofit. But I would definitely stress the importance of getting in community, getting into these support groups, and asking the questions, and of course, looking at healing differently. So I don't rush to the doctor now. I rush to my ancestral wall. I rush to a bath because I use that as healing, and connecting with water, which is an element. So I'll go to a bath, I'll go to a shower, and just sit there and kind of be in stillness. So I'm fighting in a different way. So being open, and you just don't get that without having that true rest. You just don't.
Mm.
So you have to take that time to be able to sit down and be like, okay, what is going on with my body? Um, and forgive yourself. A huge part of my journey was forgiving myself And because I would beat myself up, like, why was I not paying attention to myself? I knew, something wasn't right with me, and I just kept going. So I had to forgive myself. I said it's okay because I know now, and I'm doing better now. So those are just some tips that help, and that are still helping me. That's why the book is called Healing, because this is a healing thing. I'm constantly healing, and I'm still unlearning, and people still got to tell me to sit down and rest. Shana knows that. Like, people always got to be like, "All right, that's enough. It's enough. Go do something else." So these are ongoing things. So just don't beat yourself up. That would be my biggest thing. Anyone can go and add any tips that they want to add, and just let people know how to find you on social media.
Okay, I'll jump in. One of my things is to kind of what I mentioned in terms of like eating real food. A
Mhm.
way to like make that actionable is to add color to your plate. So whether that means that you're adding herbs to your plate or you're adding a different maybe a fruit or vegetable that you never seen before if you go into the farmer's market or like something like that, adding that in. But if we look at our plate, it should have at least three different colors. So if you look at your plate and you see that it's all one color, all like the same color theme where it's like brown, white, yellow, throw something in there, throw or something that's orange, something that's green, something that's purple or blue, or something like something different. So that's a way to automatically hit that goal. And that will help to reduce our inflammation. It will help to support our gut health, help to balance our hormones. So that is one of my actionable goals. Um, the other thing I would say, and this kind of alludes to like, it goes with the rest conversation too, is rest even when we're eating. So actually, Shana brought this up earlier about the nervous system. And so there's different, I like to think of it as like different levers that we could pull when it comes to the nervous system. And the one that we want to be in more often would be our parasympathetic nervous system. So that's the part of our nervous system where we're in the rest, the digest, the heal, the procreate part of our nervous system. So what that means is that if we are eating in a state where we're in the opposite, like the fight or flight, if we're stressed, if we're eating when we're rushed, if we're eating when we're stressed out, or not even focusing on our food at all because we're working at the same time, we're texting, we're on the phone, we're watching TV, we're actually not going to be able to digest our food. So we can't even get the full nutrients of it. So even though you're doing the act of eating, you won't fully get it. So even taking a moment to rest, like when you eat, can you carve out some time to only eat? And I think about it as like when we were kids, like that's usually what we were told to do. We weren't allowed to do much else than eat. I know I wasn't. It was eat or that's what you're doing. That's what we're doing right now. We're eating. So if you could kind of bring that back, or even a way to initially get into that could mean that you do some deep belly breathing, like 60 seconds before you take your first bite. Like, can you at least bring things down a little bit before you take that first bite so that your body can better receive that food and support you? Um, and
Mm.
castor oil packs. This is actually mentioned in the book too. I know you said that that was helpful for you. It was
Yeah.
helpful for me too. So it can help to helps with relaxation, helps to have like better sleep too. Especially if that's something that you're challenged with. It can help to with fibroids, help with lighting your period, but it does support the liver. And the liver is where we detoxify our hormones. So, particularly when we think about endometriosis, we want to be able to support the proper detoxification of estrogen so that we don't end up recycling the estrogen back into our body. Um, so, castor oil packs are also really great practice to incorporate. Oh,
Yes, thank you. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
And you can find me at my name, so Alexis Brooks Nutrition on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I'm most active on Instagram, but you can find me there, and that's also my website.
Awesome. Thank you for the castor oil. That definitely was something that was very helpful, very helpful. And I do want to add that, especially as a wellness person myself, I'm not telling people not to go to the doctor if that's what works best for you, but I am recommending that you kind of do both. And I recognize the type of disease that endometriosis is and the other chronic conditions. I'm just saying to do both and don't just solely depend on Western medicine. I'm not telling folks not to go to a doctor. I still go to a
Mhm.
doctor. I just don't solely do that anymore. So I just wanted to add that in. Thank you, Alexis. Go, Shane.
Thank you.
Uh, I love the both and. I feel like that's where we are. I feel like that's the most revolutionary thing that we can do is to take the science and the technology that most likely we probably invented and created in some type of way, right? And it just hasn't come out yet who did what. So taking that both and also understanding that a lot of medicines do come from nature, you know, and are compounded in some type of way. Aspirin is made from white willow bark, you know, so we don't have to just reject. X-rays are sound, they're waves of energy, and that's how we're able to see into our internal bodies. You know, that's the technology, like we get to have that. So like let's please partake in all of those things. And I know we talked about cost and things, different things being a prohibitor, and what I love about how we're evolving is that we're all learning again on how to listen to ourselves. And as we listen to ourselves, we kind of become a magnet for what is best and highest. And so as you kind of come up against blockers or pushback, there's a way to go into your inner self and say, okay, I submit who is the best doctor, who's the best physician for me, you know, and allowing folks, you know, to then recommend the highest and best, you know, or being able to again go online and say, there's something about this person's name that feels right, you know, and then you go to that person, it's like, this is the exact team that I needed. They had all the resources that I needed, and they also accept the insurance that I have, you know, that's real. We can do that. We have that power. Um, and that comes again from a deep listening. Um, I think that other tip that I would give is what I loved about what you said, Alexis, about not thinking in terms of lack and thinking in terms of abundance, knowing that endo is not something and fibroids are not curses, right? They're not your body being an enemy. You are safe inside your body, and your body is trying to communicate something with you. And through being able to listen to it is how you are going to like essentially get through it.
Mhm.
And in that way, I feel like that's how we can look at our body as a gift, because the body is keeping the score and it's just trying to be an antenna to the greater, you know, saying outside world. It's just trying to tell you, hey, I don't want to do this no more. I can't carry this load no more. I can't take this denial no more. I need to let go of this grief, whatever it is, right? I need to experience joy more, right? Those are the kind of things that it's asking you to do. And so, my biggest tip is to listen, right? Even if it's just 5 minutes a day, don't ignore your pain. Allow it, speak to it, ask what it is that you need, because the universe is 100% here, ready to support you in moving forward. This is just kind of a, hey, I need some help, and not a curse. I think
Mm,
that's really important.
mm. Thank you for saying that. There's been a lot of spiritual spaces that I've been in, and that has come up with me having a hysterectomy, and why do you let them do that, or the I've had folks say it's a curse, or a result of just me not doing this, that, and the third, and that hurt a lot.
Because
So
it hurt a lot because it's some bullshit.
that's exactly what you
Look,
said.
old ass constipation coming out your ass hurts. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what you said when I called you too. I was like, well, damn, okay,
Oh, did I?
yeah, no, because thank you for saying it, because there's a lot of women, who wrestle with that. Like they do feel like, especially in these spaces, like, is this something I did? Is it,
Yeah, yeah,
and then I did some
yeah.
Reiki healing, some womb healing,
Hmm.
on my white, and that was helpful as well. So I just wanted to thank you for sending. Also, let people know where to find you.
Oh, yes. Sorry. You can reach me on Instagram. I am the original Rest Rituals. On TikTok, I'm Connect with Shana. Um, I love to talk to anybody about spirituality, mysticism, and holistic health. It is 100% my jam. So I recently, because of the folks that I've worked with, people have said like, "Oh, I would have if I knew you worked with these people, I would have been too intimidated to talk to you." That's crazy. You know
Mm,
what I'm saying? Like the whole job here is to be able to say, "Oh, I needed rest," and then as these things come up, then I can refer you to Alexis, and then I can be able to get you to Fawn, so that you can get even more healing and more community because we need each other. This is new concepts for all of us,
Mhm.
me included. I started doing sound healing because I was a burnt out, overly stressed, body effed up person. You know what I'm saying? All the same exact, things. And my calling came even more in 2020. And I was like, oh, now they get to listen to me because they have to stay at home. How can I help folks? And they're like, get online and do this sound. Like, let people feel what this feels like because they don't know what it means to rest. And so I'd be online live with folks like you who didn't even know, Alexis, what sound healing was, and you be able just to lay there and listen for that 5, 10, 30 minutes, depending on how long I was there, and be able to feel your body in a way that you had not felt it previously in years, and connect and let go and rest. Um, and so I want to be able to continue to do that. And believe it or not, 90%, 95% of my clients are uber ambitious. They're uber ambitious women. They are literally the leaders and the visionaries um, uh, of our generation, and we're struggling. We're struggling with rest. We're struggling with our health, and we're struggling with our mental health. Um, and so, again, the tip: 2 to 3 minutes, and just feel into your body and let it speak to you, and call me when you need me. Call Alexis when you need her. She's got a free consultation, y'all. Like
Okay.
when she
Yes.
said that, I was like, "Word!" I mean,
yeah.
everybody, like, because to have the conversations, like we were saying, like folks be like, "What is an RD?" And I'm
Mhm.
like, "Yo, you gotta have this. Like, you got a chronic illness and you don't have an RD. How are you? How do you even know what
Hmm.
you're doing?" Like, yeah. So this was like, "Oh yeah, I'm so glad that we were on this forum together."
Yes. Um, just looking over some of the comments,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so if people want a part two, and then Erin says that sound healing really helped her husband during his chemo treatment in 2020.
Oh,
Totally forgot
wonderful.
about how beneficial that was. Thank you for letting me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool,
Absolutely.
cool, cool. So I thank you all so much for joining today, and the video will be on my Facebook for a few days, but it'll remain on YouTube. So
Okay.
people can feel free to go, to my YouTube channel and check it out. And I will probably download some clips. And you'll see yourself online.
Hey.
Floating.
Famous. Famous.
Okay.
All right. So y'all, thanks for joining us, and we will end the stream now.
Thank you.
Thank you.